Welcome to this explainer. You know, we so often think of secrets as these invisible, entirely weightless things. A quiet omission here, a hidden aspect of our identity there, or perhaps a really heavy trauma we've buried so deeply that we actually convince ourselves it doesn't even exist anymore. But the reality is, a secret is never truly weightless. From an evolutionary perspective, hiding the truth isn't just a psychological burden. It is a profound, deeply physical biological crisis. Drawing on the truly groundbreaking work of evolutionary biologist Robert Trivers regarding deceit and self-deception, we're going to take a really close look at the invisible war that is raging inside you the moment you decide to suppress reality. We are going to explore how this simple act of maintaining a false front exacts this relentless, exhausting physiological toll on your body.
Okay, let's dive into this by having you take a really slow, quiet moment. I want you to ask yourself, what secret is your body currently paying for? Just hold that hidden truth in your mind right now, or maybe that masked aspect of your identity that you keep tucked away. Keep it right there as we go through this explainer. We really want to ground this deep evolutionary science directly in your own personal experience, because as you'll see, the actual, literal energy you are using to hide that truth right now, it is being stolen from the very systems inside you that are designed to keep you alive.
Part 1. The weight of deception. Let's talk about the cognitive load.
To really understand this biological theft, we first have to take a journey into the mind itself. The human brain is just this absolute marvel of evolutionary engineering, and it is explicitly designed to perceive the world accurately. But when we lie to other people, or even worse, when we deceive ourselves, we are essentially forcing our biology to work against its own highly sophisticated sensory equipment. And that brings us to a really crucial concept, known as cognitive load. When you tell a lie or you suppress a core truth, it generates this immediate, intense cognitive friction. Your brain suddenly has to work incredibly hard. It's doing this exhausting juggling act where it must hold the actual truth in one hand, construct a completely plausible falsehood in the other, and then constantly monitor your behavior so you don't accidentally let reality slip out. This incredible mental effort literally, physically tenses your body. In fact, Trivers notes that the effort to suppress behavior by becoming rigid actually raises the pitch of your voice. The closer a person gets to the concealed truth, the higher their vocal pitch often climbs. You're quite literally hearing the sound of the human nervous system straining under the sheer cognitive expense of a lie.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that single number right there, 20%. Even when you are completely at rest, doing absolutely nothing, your brain consumes 20% of your total metabolic energy. Literally 1/5 of all the energy you take into your body goes strictly to powering your mind. I want you to picture your body as this tightly regulated biological power grid. The supply of electricity is strictly, rigidly limited. So when you add the massive compounding cognitive load of maintaining a secret or keeping up a false persona, the brain has no choice. It inevitably starts pulling more and more wattage from that biological grid just to keep the lights of your illusion turned on.
Part 2. Your body's energy budget. You only have a limited power supply.
So, if your brain is pulling all this extra electricity just to fund self-deception, we have to ask, where exactly does that power come from? Inside of you, there is an ongoing, fierce battle for your body's severely limited resources. Your body can't just invent new energy out of thin air, right? On one side, we have the brain's demands, thinking, perceiving, and, in our case, the deeply exhausting work of suppressing reality. On the other side, we have the immune system's defenses. Your immune system is this vast, invisible, sprawling army that is constantly fighting off thousands of species of viruses, bacteria, fungi, and parasites that are, quite frankly, constantly trying to eat you from the inside out. And it turns out, operating that immune system is incredibly expensive. These two massive systems, your brain and your immunity, are battling for the exact same, very limited pool of calories and proteins. To illustrate just how wildly expensive your immunity is, think about this. Even just mimicking a parasite attack with a simple immunization routine spikes your body's resting metabolic rate by 15%, and that lasts for several days. That's just a simulation. A real, full-blown viral or bacterial attack imposes twice that metabolic cost. Fighting for your everyday survival is just a massive, massive drain on your energy.
I really want to pause and let this number truly sink in. Defending the body against illness is so metabolically expensive that it can consume up to 1/5, again 20%, of a sick human's total body protein. The immune system requires such vast, deep reservoirs of energy and protein to mount a proper defense that it can completely drain the body's reserves at the simple flick of a molecular switch. It takes whatever it needs whenever it needs it.
In fact, your immune system is so utterly desperate for energy during and after a fight that it actually induces what biologists refer to as sickness behavior. Have you ever wondered why you get those heavy, miserable blahs after fighting off a bug? That apathy, that total and complete lack of interest in joy or movement or activity, that isn't just you feeling a little unwell. As Trivers explains, your immune system is literally releasing hormones called cytokines that specifically target your brain, deliberately shutting down your ability to experience pleasure. It is literally cutting the power to your joy. Why? To force you into bed. It wants to stop you from wasting precious energy on things like food, sex, or socializing, just so it can hoard every single ounce of electricity to rebuild its defenses.
Part 3. The cost of the mask. When these two systems collide. And this brilliantly illustrates the core conflict here. We now know that the brain requires massive amounts of energy to suppress the truth, and we also know the immune system requires massive energy just to keep you from decaying. So what exactly happens when these two biological titans collide? It triggers a profoundly tragic evolutionary trade-off. When you are chronically hiding a deep trauma, denying your true identity, or maintaining a completely false persona, your brain starts acting like a runaway generator. It begins stealing the vital biological electricity that your immune system so desperately needs to keep you safe. Chronic denial forces your body to literally starve its own defenses. The raw energy required to keep up that psychological mask leaves your internal army underfunded, totally exhausted, and entirely incapable of adequately fighting off disease.
And this biological taxation, it just compounds in this brutal, vicious cycle. And it often manifests most destructively in how we sleep. Because the active suppression of thoughts naturally creates a rebound effect. Trying desperately not to think about a trauma pretty much guarantees you are going to obsess over it. This internal conflict, this heavy emotional repression, it inevitably leads to constant tossing and turning in the middle of the night. And why does this matter so much? Because your immune system regenerates preferentially during deep, low-activity sleep. By destroying your restorative rest, the cognitive load of carrying a lie quite literally blocks your immune system from ever being able to repair itself.
Part 4. Hiding trauma drains immunity.
You see, this connection between the truth and your immune system, it is not just some poetic metaphor. It is quite literally a matter of life and death. The medical data on this is devastatingly clear. Trivers points to specific studies of individuals who are hiding their sexual orientation or concealing their HIV status from the world. The deep, chronic shame and the relentless, exhausting psychological effort required to suppress a core identity directly worsens clinical conditions. It depresses immune function to such a severe extent that it significantly accelerates physical decay and visibly worsens mortality rates. When you hide who you truly are, that burden doesn't just rest on your conscience. It absolutely crushes your cellular defenses.
So, the crucial point is summarized perfectly by Robert Trivers himself: suppressing the truth is costly to immune function and health. Things like guilt, shame, depression, and denial, we need to stop thinking of them as just feelings. They are actual, measurable biological states that demand a physiological ransom from your body. When you deny reality, your cells are the ones that pay the ultimate price.
Part 5. The healing power of truth. The path to biological liberation.
Okay, let's move to and see how this builds into something deeply hopeful. Because where there is a biological cost, there is almost always a biological cure. And the beautiful thing is, you don't necessarily have to stand on a mountaintop and shout your deepest shame to the entire world to heal. Trivers highlights the incredible power of simply doing expressive private writing. By simply confronting that hidden trauma and taking the time to write it down in a private journal, you instantly shut down the heavy cognitive tax of suppressing it. You immediately stop the brain's massive energy drain, which, in turn, instantly allows your immune system to reboot itself.
Computer-based analysis of this expressive writing reveals a truly fascinating secret to biological healing. It's all about translating the suppressed, heavy burden into specific types of language. Using emotion words, even just writing down something as simple as "I am not happy," is vastly superior to suppressing the feeling entirely. Using cognitive words and pronouns helps the brain physically process the trauma, rather than just rigidly holding it down in the dark. The very act of translating a secret into structured language instantly relieves the brain's heavy electrical burden. And perhaps the most incredible finding in all of this research is the actual timeline of recovery. The physical healing within your body actually begins way before the emotional relief even registers in your mind. When individuals write about their trauma, measurable, highly consistent immune benefits kick in weeks before they report any actual felt improvement in their mood. Simply putting the truth out into the world,
even if it's just onto a completely private piece of paper, stops the biological bleeding immediately.
And this brings us to a truly profound realization. Living in the truth, speaking your reality, and finally discarding the heavy masks of self-deception, we have to realize that these are not just moral victories. Authenticity is an immunological liberation. Facing the truth is a strict biological necessity for your continued survival. It is quite literally the only way to return the power to the biological systems that were perfectly designed to keep you whole, to keep you healthy, and to keep you alive.
So, as we bring this explainer to a slow, quiet close, I really want you to think back to that question we started with. I want you to think about the precious energy you are burning right at this exact moment. Think about the silent physiological toll of whatever it is you might be hiding from the world, or even hiding from yourself. Because if absolute truth restores your body's power, what heavy secret will you finally put down today?